Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 523 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with a former advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel Olexiy Arestovych, and Russian opposition politician, lawyer, and blogger Mark Feygin. Also, thank you guys for supporting our channel. Thank you, Cinnamon. Thank you, Bill. Your kind help is very appreciated. And with that, let's deep dive into day 523. Apologies for the quality of some sound, because we are traveling this week. Enjoy. Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is Monday, time is 11 p.m, same time in Moscow as in Kiev, and we're doing day 523 with Olexiy Arestovych. Good evening, Olexiy. We have about 31,000 starting with us, over 10,000 already clicked the like button. Apologies for going live at that late hour, so any help, of course, as I usually say, helps. Please share links, click subscribe button if you have not done that yet, to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and of course to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that stream in English language. Alright, and let's begin. There are some results from a Saturday stream of events that happened between these days. Let's probably start with Kryvyi Rog attack. They hit the multi-story living apartment building, and there are casualties, there are dead and wounded. Peskov, Putin's spokesperson, already came out and said that since some UAV reached Moscow city, and as Putin's regime is saying that Kiev regime had sent a UAV onto Moscow, so we have the right to retaliate. And yeah, right, Mark, they launched that UAV from the house from Kryvyi Rog, right, from multi-story building that they destroyed. Yeah, that's their logic, I guess. If we compare times now with the previous periods, which one? Let's say before the Crimean explosion. Which one again? This year, last year? Oh, let's say the recent one. It's difficult to say, Mark, because remember the times when they were attacking Kiev daily with missiles? It was rather intensified. And of course, their Shogu came out and said that they intensified something, but for us, it didn't really. They've been attacking us daily since the beginning, so I cannot say that everything intensified. The fact that they are idiots who do not know how to use, or just dumb fucks that don't know how to use military equipment proper, and they're hitting civilian buildings left and right. So wait, do you think they are always missing? Not necessarily always, but their weapons, you have to acknowledge that they have a huge radius, so they can't really hit the target, they fall somewhere in the vicinity. And part of it can be inferred that some of the damage is done by these mistakes, but at the same time, you cannot really discount that they were targeting civilian buildings, because we know whom we're dealing with. It's not below them. See, what I want to ask you, Olexiy, is that some people are saying that, remember, at the beginning of war, I think it was Kremenchug and some other places where they hit trade centers. They were aiming at the warehouse, but missed and hit the trade center. Well, okay, maybe once, but twice, thrice. You cannot keep saying the same thing that you missed. Well, actually, Mark, they're not even saying that. They're always reporting internally that they destroyed NATO-hired guns, NATO advisors, and military targets. They haven't even acknowledged that they hit the cathedral in Odessa, the Spas Preobrazhensky, right? Yeah, I guess their theory is that Ukrainian church has done that explosion on their own to offend Russian church and Cyril, who at some point, by the way, granted this cathedral an icon. Okay, let's proceed further. There is a noticeable wave that's going in support of Saudi Arabia's conference. Mitterrand came out in France and supported that. Wall Street Journal, I think, published. And the fact that Russia is not invited to that Saudi Arabia conference and the United States supposedly are taking part. And I think Blinken is going to be there. Ukraine, of course, is invited. And at first, there'll be representatives participating and then the heads of state. And Moscow is not going to be on it. I have my own version, but I think me and our viewers want to listen to your ideas. Why do you think they're not inviting Moscow? Mark, I would want to listen to your version first. I'm thinking if you invite Moscow from the beginning, it'll be like African or Chinese initiative. There'll always be some lack of congruency. We cannot do that, we have to follow this, we will not agree to that, so nothing will go anywhere from the beginning. So I think here they're creating the pool of African countries and countries that supposedly may be in contact with Moscow and have some neutrality in this overall conflict. Plus, it could be a reaction to the current Green Deal status that you cannot really agree to anything with Moscow because you stupid animals will jump out of anything, even if the whole world agrees with you. So the normal countries want to get together, figure out what and how do they want to agree to act, and then invite Moscow to tell Moscow what to do. Right, and sorry, I slipped. It was a good slip of tongue, Mark. You said the war between Moscow and Russia. Right. Okay. So it seems like they want to publicly announce that initiative and then put that fact in front of Moscow to basically urge Moscow to follow that plan of that request. And by the way, British are not participating in that. Yes, I'm going to go into everything, Mark. That's not enough, Olexiy. Well, no, it's... I mean, I can elaborate, but it's definitely a trace of the Green Deal. And do you know where China is in this construct? Is there China in this construct? I don't know yet. So we'll see, right? There is another week, I think, till the beginning. We can understand why Moscow is not invited, because they do want to prepare a collective demand or ultimatum to Moscow and to tell them what will happen if they will not follow. And if you let them in from the beginning, they'll probably destroy the whole conversation process. So you're right, you're pretty accurate in your estimate in my mind. Yeah, you're not too talkative today, Olexiy. Well, we kind of talked about it last time, so... There is some development too. Iran, by the way, who is supplying drones to Moscow that are used by Moscow against Ukraine. Iran actually welcomes that Saudi Arabia initiative. And that's not me noting, that's Moscow propagandist resources. They're already screaming and having hysteria there about that. They're almost threatening Iran with some military action. Right, yeah, if they shoot at Iran with their missiles, that'll be a whole other chapter of this war. But yeah, Moscow is pissed that many countries are discussing everything behind their back. Here is the verbatim. What I read in the news, that a representative of Foreign Affairs of Iran supported the Saudi Arabia initiative. It's wonderful. Okay, I got you. Before we go to the map, we've been live for about 8.5 minutes. CNN TV channel said that Ukraine military are doubling their forces and efforts on the main directions, and that means absolutely for sure that this dynamics of the phase of counteroffensive is growing, and Ukraine is escalating that further. Zelensky also came out and answered some questions and said that answering allies' support questions says that obviously, since the war is still going, it's not enough what we are being supplied, because if there was enough, the war would be stopped already. And this is not a complaint, this is just a statement of fact that aid given to Ukraine by the West is Not enough. As long as the war continues, nothing is enough. It tells you that aid can be different, it can be information, it can be humanitarian, it can be military aid, and that's what he stated in the interview to the Brazilian newspaper O Globo. Yes? Arestovych, what's with you? What's up with you? You're so quiet today. Well, no, you're making good statements, and I'm in agreement with them. If I can elaborate further, I will. Okay, let's get you to elaborate further. Let's open the map, and where do we start? Let's start with Kupiansk and Bakhmut, the northeast corner. There, the enemy is attacking. Evil tongues are saying that they managed to advance a bit during the last 48 hours. However, our command is culling their efforts and preventing them from deeper penetration of liberated territories. If you go further down south, near Bakhmut, to the north of Bakhmut, there is heavy positional fighting. In the south, we're actually moving forward, creating notable pressure in the area of several villages, Klishevka, Avdiivka, Kordymovka, which is good. There is a risk for them that we might cut the road to Bakhmut. And if we succeed in a couple more actions, the southern flank of their defense will crumble. If we go down to Avdiivka, there is positional fighting there and no changes of the front line. But if you go to the south, there's some interesting events happening there. If you take Большая Novoselovka, that's the first blue protrusion, basically. And if you look down from it, you can see that there is some active motion of troops down there that's moving towards Kremenchuk and to Novodonetsk also. And their evil tongues are saying that Novodonetsk, the last red protrusion, a little bit to the right of blue, is actually gone, and that Ukraine is already at the first red diamond in that part. And then some evil tongues are saying that Russian military had to leave Novomayorsk as well, and there is very little left of what used to be the first line of fortification there. But you can see that there are different actions happening to the east, to the west. You can see a couple different protrusions. The leftmost one, the blue one, is Priyutna. Used to be their backstage area for the Russian army. Not anymore. Now they're screaming that there are fights already happening in that village, and they don't know how to push Ukrainians back. So you can see the tongue sticking deeper. So you can see Staromayorskaya avoiding certain positions to the east. Then Priyutna is on the left side, is also encircling that little red tongue that's still sticking out. So the dynamics of progress continues there for the 5th or 6th day in that part. And then if you look more to the left, near Rabotina and Verbovoye, that blue area, here we basically reached the main defense line. And you can see this discolored areas of the map to the east of the blue. You can see that there is more action happening. So yes, Southern Front indeed is active. And what is interesting, it is a forward motion. It doesn't stop for a day. Every day it liberates new settlements. You hear new names daily. And we're hoping that very soon this trend will keep increasing and eventually will break the back of that military group. I'm not CNN. I don't know exactly how they said if Ukraine increased the effort twice or with how many guns. But we definitely see the forward motion of our troops and even conservative deep state in coloring their maps. And they don't color them until they actually confirm that it was taken. It does show the notable change of the front line. In reality, our troops are much further than this map shows, and they're definitely poking and prodding all these defense positions. All these defending ones, they do want their reserves to be thrown in battle, and their glorious 35th Army, which is still untouched down south near Takmak city, this one in the middle with the surrounding entrenchments, that's only 3 battalions. Can they cover 300 miles of front? No. Can they cover defense, provide defense if we break the line in 3 places? No. And if you noticed, our actions are very interesting. We are making different attacks. Near Staromayorsk, we're making attack on the east, on the west, in the center. And that's a very high level of military action. That's when the officer is being trained, taught how to wage wars, how to do tactical maneuvers. That's one of the mechanisms when you have to shift your efforts on the flanks. One side, the other side. When troops can actually execute that shows that they already learned how to do certain things. This is a more sophisticated maneuver. This is not just intensive attacking on the front. It's us trying to find a weak spot, advancing there. When they move troops there to cover for that, we shift to the other side. While they were shifting things back in the previous position, we went back to the east and then took something else there, so they have to regroup, and then also poke them on the front. So that's what we're doing, and I think it is going according to the plan. I know people do not like it, but I hope at some point they'll learn to appreciate it when we get to the seashore. All right. And what about Olexiy and Kherson? There's a war there. We're still holding a little perch near the bridge. We have special forces creating a lot of trouble for the enemy, using special craft to cross the river. Obviously, it's not too much of a scaled offensive or counteroffensive process there, but we're working. Our artillery and our special operations guys are working. All right, let's get back to Zaporozhye. Let's discuss one question. If we zoom in the deep state map, let's imagine that this area, Rabotina, Verbovoye, where we supposedly see Ukrainian troops already in contact with the main fortification line. And probably some of them, according to the map, are already under the control of Ukrainian military. If to look at this map, what will happen if Ukrainian military will cross the first line and the second line? Well, yeah, behind the first there'll be the second one, so you cross the second. In some parts there is third. But first of all, even second is not everywhere, and third line is definitely not everywhere. But if we break through, it'll be quite fun. Then the tempo of our counteroffensive increases several fold. So where we could move maybe 2 kilometers during a week, we could be 7 kilometers during 2 days. And if you get to a real open operative area, it could be dozens of miles per day. And that'll be a sudden crumble of the whole front for them. So, for example, if you break the front, they basically go behind the enemy lines. Yeah, well, mechanized detachments go into the breach, and their task is to move as fast as they can to disrupt logistics, to destroy command outposts, equipment, artillery, anything that far-reaching artillery, airfields. The tempo is really important there, the pace. And then more troops flow into the breach, and then they flow both ways and encircle the enemies in critical locations. And this is very difficult to stop, especially with their difficult position with reserves. I told you that 35th Army in Tokmak, which is their last reserve in that area, it only sounds scary like an army, but it's really 2 battalions, that's it. It's nothing for that front of that size. So they're pretty sad. They're pretty sad in that part. Okay, so imagine that Ukrainian troops have broken through the defense line and they can continue deeper. They can't continue deeper, they will continue deeper. And they will leave Russian entrenchments behind on the flanks. Yeah, there is no real reason sometimes to spend time on them. You sometimes just encircle, offer to surrender. If they don't, you destroy them. And for example, Tokmak, so there's no sense to take it, right? You just encircle them. Exactly, yes. You do not storm them. Why? You basically encircle them, cut the lines. They may sit there for a week or two, but they do want to eat, right? If you're encircled, you are surrounded. You still need to eat. You will have to take certain considerations and think perhaps surrender is a better option. Kremlin is interesting. They're coming out saying there is no successive counteroffensive, but if Ukraine succeeds, we'll use nukes on them. So that's interesting duality, right? There is no success, but why even speak about it? Who said that? I think I missed it. Not Medvedev did. Oh yeah, he's a dumb fuck on wheels. He always says that. But regardless, yeah. He made a statement, and Americans countered and said it'll be a very sad day, and first of all, a sad day for Russia if you attempt to use it. And they're watching that situation. There are no signs of Russia getting ready to use any nukes. And yeah, despite their statements that there is no success on the Ukrainian side, yet they're concerned, right? It reminds of an old cartoon. I was running after you for 3 days to tell you that I don't like you. Yeah, you know, Medvedev may be idiot, but he's still radiating that topic, right? He's still bringing it up. I think he just beats himself in fear. Yeah, he should probably be looking up the deep state map. He can see a lot of things there. Or perhaps watch our streams. Alright, 146,000 are with us despite the late hour. It's Monday. Tomorrow is the first day of August, and let's hope that you guys will be just as active in August and you'll continue watching us at least 3 times a week when we're coming out with Olexiy. Despite all these vacations that nobody needs, right? Tomorrow, by the way, I want to remind you, we have another special stream with Olexiy Arestovych, you'll be surprised, and Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, President of Belarus, not yet in the office in Minsk. It'll be an interesting stream. We'll be discussing Belarus question, and I know you guys are poking at me for announcing it in the way spelling Belarus in Russian manner. I understand that probably it would be better to spell it in Belarus language with an A and one S, but please don't waste your efforts poking us. There are different ways to write it. The spelling that we did is the Russian spelling, and I understand we're being attacked for using that. But it's hard to please everybody. So anyway, come tomorrow at 10 p.m. There'll be that stream. And let's take a look at Africa. That situation is also continuing to evolve. It's pretty dynamic. In Niger, as you know, the group that took power and dethroned president, they had some, basic elections, not too much to write home about, but still they had some elections, and their president was France-oriented, and he was dethroned by his own military. And now they're noticed around with Moscow flags, so some people are saying there are Moscow ears sticking out of that coup, either a PMC Wagner or Kremlin itself, but they're chanting good stuff about Putin there. In Senegal, though, oppositioner who was representative of a pro-Moscow group of political forces in Senegal, he was imprisoned, and basically his effort to destabilize was cut short, and his supporters are now screaming bloody murder because they're losing their power. So there is some interesting dynamic in Africa, not exactly fully understood easily, but there is an interesting dynamic of how Moscow's attempt to get to Africa and jump there with both feet calls different reactions to life. Do you think this situation will be somewhat static after all that, or there'll be some dynamics unfolding? Because the West also sees who was meeting with Putin, which countries came to that forum, Central African Republic and the others. Well, yeah, even Prigozhin woke up and recorded the video saying that Wagner is not temporarily is not recruiting new people because we have no contracted work for more personnel yet. And now we are called Wagner Group and not private military company group. Yeah, group like the music group, right? So for now, he says that they're just training in Belarus. It's difficult to do large analysis on Africa. In Niger, definitely there is Russian trace. They already stopped supply of uranium to France. And yeah, it is Niger, right, not Nigeria. Because, yeah, Alexei, you said it right. Mark, those people who are upset at me slipping or you slipping a letter, they should not be valued as viewers, frankly. We need smart ones who understand what we're talking about. And, all right, we cannot do direct parallels with statements of Prigozhin and event in Moscow and some motion in Africa. We'll see how that unfolds a bit later, but there's definitely some dynamic happening. So it's interesting because Moscow was hoping that the conference was would go a bit different. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see where Wagner attention will be mostly. Would it be Africa? Would it be Lithuania, Poland, and Belarus? By the way, Poland said that there are some attacks of migrants on the Polish border guards, that Belarus side is providing tools to cut the fence, and they throw stones and other things at border guards on the Poland side. And somewhere there was information that Poles have brought snipers to the border just in case, if there will be an escalation. And there's a risk because Wagner is behind these refugees, and some people are saying that they're actually guiding the refugees' effort into breaking the border. So these things that we discussed a few streams ago, they're actually starting to manifest, to become material. Do you think Poles will start firing at the refugees? No, I'm sure they will not shoot the refugees. What if there are Wagner troops behind their backs? If they'll be just refugees, there'll be policemen taking them when they cross, but as soon as the first Wagner with a rifle appears, then the military will be taking actions. And they'll be shooting at Wagners, at armed resistance, at armed attackers, not at the refugees. Well, but there are signs, right? Do not cross, you may be shot at. They brought snipers too. Well, right, they did, but there's a difference between armed and unarmed person. We understand that one cannot just shoot unarmed refugees even when they are crossing the state border. If they will have arms, that's a whole other story. All right, so refugees probably will not have arms, you're right. But what will be happening behind them? Although, however, Mark, when they throw stones at the border guards, that can be technically treated as armed attack. But I think Poles are smart people. They understand that escalation is not the best thing that can happen in this case. And probably responding with a sniper to a stone being thrown, they're not going to. But they'll do police action. And I think I have trust in Poles that they've got smarts to figure it out. By the way, do you know there is a kind gentleman in Poland who's also translating us into Polish language? They have very stable 10,000 followers. Paul, yeah, who is translating us. Wonderful. Where is he? We could advertise him too. Yeah, he's in Poland. What's his name? Marek Bolik, what's his name? I'll ask, I'll find. That's great. That's great that he's doing that. Okay, let's take one more look. Here's the map of that area with the Black Sea. Today there was information that despite that naval blockade and grain deal being cancelled by Moscow, that several tankers actually reached Ukraine, one under Israeli, one under Senegal flag. I understand they went to Ukraine. They have not returned back, right? Have they left yet? I don't know if they did, but there is an Israeli vessel with under Israeli flag. That really surprised me. That was a nice surprise to see. And nobody sunk them, nobody shot them, Does it mean that one can continue going there? Well, it's hard to say. You know, Mark, brave captains can get to the port once in a while. But there is a difference between regular cargo route and occasional visit, because the question of insurance is definitely a sharp question. And since guys from Moscow offered pretty much what equals to sea piracy on these waters, the insurance costs are rising for Black Sea. And of course, one or two or three brave captains can come to Ukrainian ports, but will that become regular transport routes? That's a big question, and I don't believe it will. I can see individual ships breaking the blockade, but overall, the question of safety of Black Sea is still open. Horvatia suggested their seaports for Ukraine to be used for grain deal. So things are evolving. They're actually evolving in a good direction. All right, let's close the map and hide it. Azov commanders who returned to Ukraine from Turkey. And Putin, by the way, barked that they had an agreement that they would not be returned until the end of war, but whatever. Commander of the National Guard of Ukraine came out and said that those who are returned from Turkey will, if they want to, return to the front, and there is no prohibition that can be imposed on them after they've been returned back home. Yeah, what prohibition? That cannot be imposed on what terms can you forbid? All of these guys are military servicemen. That's their duty, that's their work. On the other hand, the people who went through these difficult times could have taken some time to rehabilitate, but they're not. They're going back to the front, which characterizes them from a certain side, in a certain light. And you just wait, Mark. They might be the ones liberating Mariupol back. Knowing these guys, I'm quite sure they might be. So, in the numbers of National Guard, that's where they're going, right? National Guard. Right, there is a commander of Azov, Prokopenko, among those who are returned. And there are enough Azov fighters. Yeah, his detachment actually is full, he's operational. This guy is a colonel, right? Lieutenant colonel doesn't not too important, but he's a commanding officer, and his detachment is actually actively fighting on the front, so he definitely can come back. 160,000 are with us. 60,000 click the like button. We've been live for about 33 minutes. It would be nice if you managed to share links and click subscribe button. And do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you have not done that yet. Russia is saying that Ukrainian diversion groups are planning acts in Karelia on the border with Finland, and that Finland ultra-right organizations are active now, and they're pushing an agenda of reclaiming some territories that they were lost by Finland as the result of Second World War. And Russia is Patrushev, their FSB guy came out and said that there is now escalation on the Finland border because Finland wants our lands back. And another one, there was a funny statement when Russia came out and said, well, you can withdraw American nukes from Europe, and we might remove our nukes from Belarus. That cynicism is beyond me. So they're suggesting the whole Europe, Germany, all the Western Europe without any protection, then at least withdraw your nukes to beyond Urals, right, somewhere to the eastern Russia. Why the logic is that we brought our nukes to Belarus and you remove your missiles from Europe completely, and then we may eventually move our nukes from Belarus back to Russia. So that probably tells me about how mad they are. How do you call them? Kalima, those groups, not entirely sane and very bold. That's what they're saying. As if they've taken Paris and they can dictate their terms to the frightened world. That's Moscow, yeah. There's an anecdote that I might tell, but I probably shouldn't. I don't want to destroy the image of my gentleman behavior No, Mark, no. I've changed my mind. There are ladies and children watching the stream. Could you change it maybe? Some words? No. It's the core of it. I'll tell you in person one day. I'll put a link to that poll at the bottom of that stream. Philosophy of Tagbarts. Yeah, we'll find his name and we'll announce the guy. You can maybe add it in your stream. And hello to everybody who is watching us from Poland and who want to watch in Polish language. That's where you can watch it in Polish. We'll put that in the description below. I'm looking at it now. Philosophy tak bardzo. I think those who are watching us from Poland, you can definitely watch us in Polish language. Konstantin is putting the link in the description to that video. And by the way, Mark, change the announcement for tomorrow's stream. Please spell Belarus in a Belarus manner with an A and one S. Please do that. There's no problem to do that, but the thing is, in Belarus there are two languages. It's Russian and Belarusian that they speak. Of course, it's probably good if they switch to Belarusian language, but then you need to transliterate the whole announcement in Belarus. Well, Mark, at least we can express some respect in writing Belarus in the right way. I'm writing Belarus with one S and with the letter A. Okay, you may have convinced me to change that. And guys, it's not because there is some disrespect or something, it's just the problem of several different languages being used on the same territory. And there are minor differences in some spellings. Alright, so there is another interesting publication in Times. Great Britain cannot acknowledge private mercenary corps Wagner as a terrorist organization because they're funded from the budget of Russia. Since Putin officially acknowledged that Wagner is funded by government, British sources are saying that they cannot add this organization to the list of terrorist organizations would be equal to adding Russian government to the list of terrorist organizations. And there'll be a lot of consequences, both financial and legal, to such an action. Even the symbols of the country that are on the terrorist list would not be welcome or would possibly be punished with fines. So what's the problem, Mark? They can just come out and announce Putin's government as a terrorist organization. Oh, I agree. That would be fantastic if they did that. That's a wonderful suggestion. But I suspect until Americans do that, the others are still somewhat scared to do that. I don't know if they're scared. They may be just carrying out their own plans, Mark. We cannot stop them from carrying the plans and addressing it in a different manner. Okay, and the last topic we want to discuss today. Assets of Ukrainian billionaire Rinat Akhmetov were arrested in Russia. Now I guess there'll be people screaming in our chat that we are funded by Akhmetov since we're bringing him up. His company SCM Holding Limited, which also includes mining assets, Metinvest, they were donating money to Azov and to other Ukrainian troops, so I understand that Akhmetov is funding Azov and some others. Yeah, it's obvious, but you probably should ask him, not me, where he spends his money at. So the arrest of assets of Ukrainian businessmen, in your opinion, is it some kind of revenge? No, Mark, I think it's inertia. We slap sanctions on them, they retaliate back at us. Why I'm asking this, Olexiy, is that Akhmetov was always pro-Moscow businessman, and now his assets are getting arrested. Oh, no, Mark, he was definitely not a pro-Moscow. I understand that he might have been different, but he was always considered to be one with connections to Moscow. He was from Donetsk, and he was pro-Moscow. No, Mark, Akhmetov was always pro-Akhmetov businessman. He was minding his own interests. But it's a sanctioned war. It's surprising that they're doing it on day 523, that they're noticing. Joe, the sharp eye, finally noticed that the prison is missing the fourth wall, right? But, at least on the 17th month, they finally starting to notice things around them. Akhmetov, by the way, is doing a lot of humanitarian activity in Ukraine. He's supporting a lot of restoration and aid activities. But is he funding Azov directly, Olexiy? I don't know. You should probably ask him. But as a taxpayer in Ukraine, of course, because Azov is a detachment of a National Guard. So the fact that he pays taxes in Ukraine, he does support them by the fact of paying taxes. And yeah, I guess we are talking him up to be considered for the highest level of punishment there by Moscow. Yeah, right. As people who already have their criminal prosecution acts against us by Moscow, we can drum him up too. So we're not alone here. We are at almost 200,000 here, and we're getting close to midnight. 65,000 of you click the like button. Huge ask. Please continue sharing links in your social media and other groups, and click the like button and subscribe, please, if you have not done that, to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych. And one more, probably the very last announcement. Indeed, in Facebook, there is a group that I created called French Club. It's not a secret. I think right now there are about 2,000 subscribers and participants. We will be preparing in France, in Paris, a big assembly where citizens of Ukraine will be invited, some Russians as well, everybody who is against Putin and his regime. Arestovych, of course, will be there. Those who consider Crimea to be Ukraine territory, and of course, death to Huilo and all that stuff. So we will invite a very mixed group, but it's a lengthy preparation. It takes a lengthy preparation lead time, so we'll probably have several hundred people visiting. And so find it in Facebook, become part of their subscribers, and we'll start discussions there. This group has been live for only 3 days, and we'll start discussing that initiative there. We might also connect it to some performance by Ukrainian group over in France that will be on tour. Then we'll have an assembly, and we'll finish with dining and drinking at the end. Mark, let's call it maybe not French Club, but French Foreign Legion 2. Oh, you're naughty, Olexiy. All right. We know that Legion, right? We probably will do that, but we're just beginning. So please, if you can find time and effort to spare, join our initiative. That's a group on Facebook. And we'll see you tomorrow, Olexiy, on tomorrow's stream with Svetlana. Belarus question. Right, and we'll change the typing. Yeah, we'll do. Don't offend good and kind Belarus people. Of course, we'll change that. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.